U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to impose 25% tariffs on goods imported from India could hit the country's growth prospects, experts say. It is unclear how big the hit could be. Given that Trump has announced an unspecified penalty in addition to the 25% tariff rate. In a post on his Truth Social platform on Wednesday, Trump said the penalty would be imposed on India starting the 1st of August for buying Russian oil and weapons, at a time when everyone wants Russia to stop the killing in Ukraine. Experts say further details on the fine print of the penalty will be crucial to determine the actual economic impact of the decision. The tariff and penalty, now proposed by the US, is higher than what we had anticipated, and is therefore likely to pose a headwind to India's GDP growth. The extent of the downside will depend on the size of the penalties imposed, Aditi Nayar, chief economist at ratings agency Icra, said in a statement. Icra had previously reduced its gross domestic product, GDP, forecast for India for this financial year from 6.5% to 6.2% due to the adverse impact of the tariff hikes. Another brokerage, Nomura, said the tariffs were growth negative, and India's GDP could take a hit of 0.2% as a result of the announcements. Indian stock markets reacted negatively to the news, opening in the red as trade began for the day. The market was expecting a tariff deal to work out as longer-term US-India strategic interests are aligned, said Nilesh Shah, a fund manager. India and the US have held several rounds of negotiations for a trade deal over the past few months, with Delhi even reducing tariffs on goods like bourbon whiskey and motorcycles to placate the US. But the US runs a $45 billion, £33 billion, trade deficit with India, which Trump is keen to reduce. A 25% tariff plus additional penalties will leave India worse off relative to other Asian economies like Vietnam and China. The main countries we are competing against for investment and industrialization. Rahul Ahluwalia of the Foundation for Economic Development think tank told the BBC. U.S. tariffs on Chinese imports fell from 145% to 30% after negotiations in Geneva and London. The two sides now have until the 12th of August to reach a long-term trade deal. Trump also inked a deal with Vietnam in early July, agreeing to levy tariffs of 20% compared with a 46% levy proposed in April. Given that India's tariffs are no longer lower than these countries, an expected diversion of export supply chains in sectors like textiles to India is now unlikely. If the tariff is sustained, this move may directly affect key sectors such as marine products, pharmaceuticals, textiles, leather and automobiles, where bilateral trade has been especially robust, said Agneshwar Sen, trade policy expert at EY India. Trump to hit India with 25% tariffs, plus as penalty, for trade with Russia is the big, beautiful, India-US trade deal in trouble? What tariffs has Trump introduced and why? Trump's announcement evoked across-the-board reactions of disappointment and concern from economists, exporters and industry leaders in India. While this U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to impose 25% tariffs on goods imported from India